Good afternoon. Happy Saturday. Welcome, everyone, to our edition of Ladies' Night. I am so excited to be here. My name is Shayla Colbert. I am Black Mental Wellness Ambassador. I am also a mental and emotional wellness advocate, creating my own space on social media, on Instagram, Safe Space with Shay. My primary focus is to reduce the stigma within the African American community in regards to the mental and emotional wellness of our people as a whole. I hold this space with different mental health professionals as well, talking about various topics from trauma to mother daughter relationships to anything of that nature that affects us in our mental and emotional space. So, that's basically what I've been doing for the past 4 years. I've been working with Black Mental Wellness for the past 3 years. We have a fantastic panelist today, and I am so excited to introduce these awesome ladies. First up, we have Diablia Ford. I hope I didn't butcher your name too much. I messed it up. I'm sorry. um, Go ahead, correct me.
It's Diavola.
Diabla. I don't know why I'm calling you Diabla. Diabla. um, she's a Memphis native. She is a licensed clinical social worker. She obtained her bachelor's of arts in psychology from the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. She also obtained her master's of social work from the University of Memphis. She is currently pursuing her doctorate of behavioral health from Hartman University. She has a concentration on focusing on patients with abandonment issues, rejection, depression, anxiety, abuse, and etc. She wants to basically create a space where these people can be transparent and vulnerable as it results to their healing. She also is the author of two journals. One is the Toxic Relationship Edition, and the other is the Therapeutic Journal. So, yeah, check her out. She's doing amazing things. Our next panelist is Dr. Kimberly Dockery. She is a behavioral health therapist with Women's Health Associates in Portland, Oregon. Originally, she's from Memphis, Tennessee. Kimberly has her own practice that focuses on holistic, collaborative, and progressive healthcare. Dr. Kimberly focused on helping women. She appreciates the rich and varied narratives and consider it an honor to walk alongside them as they navigate their own health and wellness through their life circumstances and transitions. Our next panelist is Raquel E. DeBose. She is a licensed professional clinical counselor with supervisory designation. She has her bachelor's of arts degree in international studies from the Ohio State University, her master's of science in education degree from University of Dayton. She's an advocate. She educates on trauma, criminal justice, forensic, and fighting the stigma, mental illness, especially in the Black community. And her whole thing is find your light, be the light, and turn your light up. Our last panelist is Siobhan Terrell Camper. She is a coach. Her mission is to end the silence of suffering, silencing and suffering. Her methods, creating a space where she can answer thought provoking questions that lead to your truth. She says, when you work with her, you are guaranteed to get honesty, accountability, exploration of ideas outside of your traditional thought path. I love it, ladies. Great job. I love your bios. Excellent work. So, are you guys happy to be here? Happy to get this conversation started?
Definitely. We got
Okay.
Absolutely.
excited.
Yes, yes. I feel like as Black women, we are the center of it all, the epitome of where it comes from. We're the nurturers, we're the carers, and a lot of times we're the providers. So it's so important that we take care of our selves mentally and emotionally. So my first question is going to be, I got them in order. I thought I did. It's for Dr. Dockery. Am I saying that correctly? Okay.
Yes, yes.
So, okay. First question was, How has the strong black woman narrative impacted black women from taking care of themselves mentally and emotionally?
How has the narrative? This is a big question. Um, I think we have to reclaim our narratives. Honestly, women, like you said, have always been in placeholder situations to take care of things within our families, within our communities, and I think the conversation which we're having today is how do we start to really narrate that differently for us, as far as healing, as far as us addressing trauma, as far as us taking care of ourselves and just really transforming a lot of things that I think that we ought to be doing with our time as women. And so that's what comes to mind initially when I think about that question. I'm curious to hear what the other ladies think.
Yeah, ladies.
I think that when I think about the strong, hopefully y'all can hear me because I feel like I feel this platform is I haven't ever used Hop In before, so I'm like I hope y'all can hear me. Okay, and if I talk too fast, let me know. I do that as well. I think when I think about strong black woman narrative, I think about the examples that we were privy to as we were growing up, right? So when you think about your mom, your grandma, aunties, great grandma, everybody was supposed to be strong. Keep it pushing, do what you need to do. We don't have time for all of that. What happens in this house stays in this house. So if you're struggling, you keep it right. You keep it right here, and you just complain, but then you go out into the world and you keep it pushing, no matter kind of what you're struggling with. And I also think that it was hard for them to create a space for us to be vulnerable, be transparent, be able to say, okay, we're not doing well. It was hard for them because they didn't have the space. So it's generational as well. They're bringing that into, the household with us, and then we kind of carry that also. I think that when we think about invalidating experiences, that also kind of adds to the stigma. So if it's, girl, you're gonna be okay. Girl, you done did this before. Girl, you strong. You got this. Like, and all that is well and good. Yes, we do have this, but both can be true, right? We can have this and also need to create space to feel like we need to just sit in it. We need to be sad. We need to be like, this is some BS, and we need to be angry. And I'm always telling folks to make sure that, feel your feels, but don't get stuck. Right. And I think that sometimes we've been to the last part. Just don't get stuck. Not the feels part. Like, I think the feeling part is where we kind of it's okay to be sad about something. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to feel like, I don't have this. It's okay to feel like you don't have it because you might not in that moment. Will you have it eventually? Yes. But in this moment, just let me feel like I don't have it. And I also think that when we have examples of how other people with emotional issues were treated, that creates a different space as well. So if we know that family member in the back was like, okay, they a little, figure that out, girl, they'd be all right. So if we see how other people are treating those people with issues as well, how does that create a safe space for us to be like, I don't feel right about this, right? Like, we have to have those examples as well. So I think that the expectation is high for Black women. I think that, we're expected to have it all together. We're expected to carry everyone. We're expected to be all things for all people at all times. And that definitely impacts our ability to just be able to say, I don't have it. And so then you don't reach out, or reaching out is weakness, or reaching out means you don't have it. And if you don't have it, that means you just never gonna have it. And you can never come back from that. And so I think that it definitely creates that space of, we have to be able to push past it in a way that's healthy for us and get the help that we need. I feel like that was long, but okay.
No, that was good though.
It was good. Even building on top of what Raquel was saying, I think a big part of us redefining what it all means is to add our own definitions. Because when it comes to strength, a lot of it has to do with, here's what I need to do, here's when it needs to be done, and how it needs to be done. And one of the ways I like to look at strength now is a mountain. A mountain doesn't have to prove how strong it is. It being there shows its strength. And oftentimes, as Black women, we are looking to prove our strength. It's always a doing action. And sometimes it's about, who will I be through this? So even like, I need to get through this. Sometimes I need to flow through this. You think about a river has a current, no matter what, you're going to flow through it. And that involves like trust. How much do I trust myself in navigating this situation in a way that resonates with who I am today?
Anybody else want to add?
I wouldn't mind adding, but I think all the ladies really touched on it like very well. I just think one, thinking about history, that even as us being enslaved, like we were seen as just having this strength and we can't be hurt, and that's just for our community in general. Like it's these really unrealistic expectations that were put on us back in that time, as well as what we're putting on ourselves now. So we really have to work on changing our language. And I think what everyone's saying, like just agreeing with that, is that we have to figure out what unrealistic expectations am I setting for myself and that I feel like other people are setting for me, but also what I'm setting for my relationships. And then let's come up with some realistic core beliefs that I can set for myself so I won't continue to reinforce this like strong Black woman schema.
That's perfect. Thank you, ladies. So then my next question, it's for Dr. Dockery as well. It's the second question follow up. Black women in luxury is trending. What does it mean to you? Can we discuss luxury for Black women and what it can look like?
I think it's a great question. And I think it varies for us, right? So I often think about luxury and what that means for me, and what that means for like my mom or my grandmother or my aunts. I think it varies, but luxury could be you taking a long bath and you buying a nice candle, or it could mean you really getting that investment piece that you really wanted, or really setting aside time for you to vacation in a way. I just think COVID has really taught us, and that's just me, I feel this way, that we have to luxuriate in different ways as women. And so often when I'm thinking about that, because this is a very trending topic, from you looking at things as far as accessible things in which you can purchase to how are you building back into yourself. So I'm really curious to hear what the ladies think. I think it's such a continuum of a conversation, and you really have to make meaning around what it means for you to step into luxury. I think another thing comes with it being kind of a negative thing if you're a Black woman and thinking about luxury, right? Like we're not supposed to talk about it, or we're not supposed to enjoy those things in which we feel that we deserve and are worthy of having and taking care of ourselves. Um, I think it's a luxury for you to take care of yourself, to be honest. We often talk about self-care, but what does that mean really to genuinely care for you?
Yeah, I agree with all of what you said. And then just piggybacking off that, like I'm in this Black girls and luxury group on Facebook. I'm sure there's like a plethora of them. And what I feel like what is shown is that we're able to have nice things. I think a lot of times when when we get things or we start sporting things, people question if it's authentic or if it's real versus like another culture, and or why are you spending your money on that? Like you could be doing, like we question what we spend our money on or what we do for luxury for ourselves versus we don't do that for like another race. So I feel like we're creating those safe spaces like that Facebook group where it's like, if you want to go buy a Telfar bag or a Chanel bag, we here to support you and root you on, and you deserve it, sis, and you deserve it, whatever it is that you get. So it's all about, I feel like, just one, giving yourself permission to live your best life and what that looks like, but also rooting for your sister even when you can't afford what they might have bought or where they might have traveled. So I think it's a lot of support, and I think that's what I love about it. I know we get a lot of buzzwords or things that get very trendy, but I hope that people see, like, as much as self-care can be luxury, to me self-care is survival. Like you cannot have a sustainable life if you're taking care of everyone else and not yourself. So to me, it's survival mode. Like what they say on the plane, you got to put your mask on first before you help someone else. I got to make sure I'm good first before I can be there for anyone else.
I agree with Dr. Kimberly and Ms. Diavola. I think that the fact that sometimes people assume that luxury is like an inherently white sort of aspiration, that's a separate issue, I'm sure. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, okay, we can't have that because that's reserved for them. That's not us. Or if we decide to spend $5,000 on a bag because you got it like that, you should have had a then LLC Twitter come through. You should have really invested your, you know what I'm saying, your mind and your worth and to uplift us. And that's not like, we just can't, it can't be both. We can't be multidimensional. It has to be either we have on the cape at all times, or we're trying to be white, whatever that looks like. And so I think that being able to figure out, again, like Dr. Kimberly said, that, you know, inherent, like, you know, kind of surface level luxury is relative, right? Like your definition, my $30 fake fur from TJ Maxx might be my idea of luxury. I don't have one, but maybe I want one. And like, you know what? I don't want a chinchilla. I want to, you know, I just want to go to Marshall's. Like, let me ball out in Dollar Tree, whatever that looks like, right? Like, it's about what brings you joy. And I think that should be the, you know, equating to luxury versus you have to spend this much money. You have to you got to go to the Maldives and drop 10 racks to be luxurious. Not that I don't want to go to the Maldives, because that would be great. But that doesn't mean that that's the only way that you can feel luxury or be luxurious or take care of yourself, or it's just so relative. And I want us as Black women to really focus on what makes us happy without putting that pressure on ourselves from society.
Yes, it's a mindset. That's what I mean, that's what my takeaway is regarding it. It's a mindset for us and how we care for us, how that looks.
Because we deserve.
Exactly. We deserve having it. We were worthy of having it. So,
can we just have it? Let's just have it. Like can we just have it without all the other pieces to it, all the other, okay, we have to have this and this and this. We can't just be like, maybe I just want to spend 10,000 on a trip. Let me do that. That's okay. I can also still fight the good fight when I get back, or before, or check an email. Or, you know, we can do it all. I know the expectation is for us to do everything, but we also can take care of ourselves, and that should absolutely be the priority. Like Miss Diablo said, like, put that mask on first, for sure.
Excellent, ladies. And you know what? I got the question mixed up because I think I gave Dr. Dockery Raquel's question. So, look, my bad. Okay, so I am going to follow up with Dr. Dockery's question, which is, how important is it to implement and reinforce boundaries, and why is self-care so important?
I think boundaries are imperative. And when I say that, not boundaries in which you respectfully are putting on other people. But I think it starts with self, because at the end of the day, when you're setting boundaries, you have to set boundaries with yourself and how you want to be received and taken care of. So I think first and foremost, they're imperative, but I think they're imperative as far as you being able to honor them with you, and extending that to other people. And how does that fit into self-care? I think it's incredibly important. If you were to think about boundaries and what you're setting around your personal space, like, ladies, turn on your do not disturb if you need to. You know, say no, you're not available, or I'm not comfortable with taking that on, or putting up boundaries regarding what you're saying to yourself about yourself. I mean, there's just so many things in which we can talk about boundaries. I know there's several books that are out. One book I think that's out right now is what is it? Help me with the title, ladies. It's by another Black therapist, Nidra. Yeah. So set your boundaries, find your peace. I mean, I'll just say this, and this is a generalization. We don't have really great boundaries as women. we have to learn them. I know I had to learn them in ways. And that's why I think it's so imperative for us to seek and to really identify what we want to set as far as boundaries, and how we are taking care of ourselves, and how we want that to really flow with our relationships across the board. So my answer is, it is imperative. It is needed. Is it necessary for you to take care of you, to put them in place?
Yeah, I think one of the common traps that I experience when clients come to me having these conversations about boundaries is the stop at, I don't know, and keep continuing to say, I don't know, and moving from I don't know to what do I know. So you may not be able to have all of your boundaries everywhere, but just starting small. Here is a boundary I want to put in place, and making sure that when you put that boundary in place, not only do your words communicate the boundaries, but your action also communicates the boundaries. Because sometimes we'll say one thing and we're like, oh, no, that's a boundary for me. Turn around the next second later and we're like, it's okay, girl. I got you covered. And that's you disrespecting your boundaries. So it's like, if you're going to put a boundary in place, first move past I don't know to where can I start? What is the first small boundary I could put in place? Because we're always looking at 100%. I need to go from doing this all the way over here to doing this, and that's an extreme. If we just keep moving 1%, let me get 1% better with my boundaries. So as opposed to saying yes all day every day, I'm going to say no one time this week. That's like one closer step, and just focus on mastering that 1%. And then before you know, you can move on to 2% instead of trying to I'm giving 150. That ties back into I need to do it all and be it all right now. No, we need to make progress one step at a time. And it's okay if everybody else doesn't notice it, just as long as you realize I'm making a step forward and I'm empowering this one step. I may not be able to do all that right now, but I got this one step covered.
I love that, Siobhan. Like I really felt that. And I think we all, even as like clinicians and life coaches, like struggle with that. So one, we have to do that in our own lives. What I had to teach myself, I also teach my clients, is that the absence of boundaries does not mean less conflict or no conflict. And I think we think that if we don't have boundaries, then everything all be good. No, people still aren't going to be happy. They're still going to get disappointed and getting comfortable with disappointing others. Like when you're able to kind of overcome, I'm going to disappoint my parents, I'm going to disappoint my spouse, I'm going to disappoint my children, and be okay with that, then you can see it's okay to set those healthy boundaries. So one thing is just make sure that one, and I like how you basically said it, like you have to hold them to that standard, but also communicating that expectation, but following up with a consequence. Like you expect children to understand to do things and put a consequence with it. You have to also have a consequence, and not like you're punishing someone, but you're saying like, hey, when you curse at me when we're having a conversation, I will be removing myself from the phone conversation or the in-person conversation until we can have it where you're not yelling at me. You still gave them a consequence. So it always has to follow up with you saying what you're going to do. You explain what it is, you tell them what you're going to do, and then you do it when it happens versus just letting it slide. So I love that, Siobhan.
I think that also, I'm sorry, Dr. Kimberly. Real quick. Iyanla is not a therapist, and we know this. Okay. She's a prophetess, and we respect her in her lane. But one thing that because sometimes she be on left, but one thing that she says that I love is you got to teach people how to treat you. And I use that with my clients all the time. Like you, and so this is more of that self-image, self-worth, valuable sort of thing of I deserve to have boundaries with people. I deserve for people to treat me with respect. I deserve for people to for me to say I'm cool on you. And that's not anything that's going to be, it's not a testament to who they are. It's a testament to how I feel about myself, right? So setting boundaries is definitely something that is indicative of how you feel about you. So if you're saying I'm not like Ms. Diablo was saying, like you're not going to cuss at me and talk to me all any kind of way, you can do that. That is your business. I don't have to be a part of that, right? We don't have to participate. You can be how you want to be. And I'm not telling you to change yourself as a person, but I just don't have to be a part of that. And I think that that's an important piece, that we can remove ourselves from situations. I think when we're as children, we're forced to because we're kids, and we kind of have to get out of that mindset as adults we have a choice. We don't have to, parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles, cousins, friends, we just don't have to. Thankfully, we don't have to sit in it. We don't have to, that's just so-and-so, that's just how he is. Okay, that's cool. And he can be that. I don't have to be a part of that, right? So loving ourselves enough to be able to maintain boundaries, because that's a reflection of how we feel about ourselves, for sure.
That's such a great point, Raquel. And sometimes we're also quickly focused on the external boundaries, but sometimes the way we treat ourselves, we wouldn't accept that treatment from any external person. So it's also healthy to start with, what are the boundaries I'm going to have with myself? Becoming my number one cheerleader versus my number one critic, and being able, that's a new boundary. I support myself. I give myself feedback. I give myself criticism. But it's a whole nother thing when you're beating yourself up internally, and then you're wondering, why do people treat me like this? You're treating yourself like that. And it's just a reflection of the external, just a reflection of what you are doing to yourself. So even if the external boundaries are hard right now, start with, okay, what's a boundary I could create with myself moving forward?
I like what Ms. Diablo said about um, not wanting to hurt people's feelings, because I think that's something that we carry with us a lot. Like, well, I don't want to hurt people's feelings. You know whose job that isn't? Ours. That don't have nothing to do with us, right? Like, we can say how we need to feel about things. We're not okay. We're not going to be malicious or harsh or be like a complete, psychopath. But I think that there's a way in which, no disrespect to them, a way in which that we can like really set a boundary, maintain it, honor ourselves in that process, and also not worry about, because we can't control how people react to how we feel about us and what we say to them. If you give yourself that sort of power, that's heavy to carry. That's really heavy to carry. And when we experience that heaviness, then we have physical health symptoms from that. Then we have, our chest hurt and we're not sleeping, or we're eating too much, and then we have all these things that from carrying all the weight of trying to manage everybody else's feelings and not our own. No, no.
Absolutely. I think all of this is awesome. But I think too, we just have to learn to just stick with it, stay consistent. Because I think when we waver or we take on the responsibility of other people's emotions around it, or we feel that we should be people pleasing or that's too much, that's setting the tone for that to be, and it's okay and acceptable to be reminded and to repeat boundaries, as well. I think that's another thing. I think once you say, okay, this is my boundary, like we can't bring that up again, or I can't revisit that again because that's my boundary. But I think what I think is very important too, you can remind a person of your boundaries. And I think another part in which we haven't touched on, there are healthy boundaries for us too, regarding like, okay, my boundary may be for, this particular hour in the day, I need to do something that's going to bring me joy, right? It doesn't always have to come with something that we're saying I can't say no to. A boundary can be set in ways in which it can bring, really goodness to us as well. I'm really excited we talked about this because I think as women, we really have to set the tone for that, for ourselves and for others.
Absolutely. And I wanted to add too, I also feel like self-esteem is a part of those boundaries and establishing and reinforcing, because if you have low self-esteem, you're not really confident, and it's going to be harder for you to kind of reinforce and establish and then reinforce those if you don't feel, you're strongest. So I think self-confidence is key too with that. Okay, so my next question, since we're on the whole boundary piece, is going to go to Siobhan. So, what are some ways in which Black women can protect their peace when people expect us to be caretakers?
Absolutely. I think this is such a great question, and it comes up oftentimes when I'm in practice with clients. And one of the techniques that I put in is, all right, there are different versions of ourselves. Sometimes we see ourselves as one big whole, like this is me. And that's partly true. And with moving forward, it could be really helpful to separate yourself into phases: my past self, my present self, and my future self. Because sometimes in situations that are unpeaceful, we're showing up as a past version of ourselves. And when we get clear on who am I in this phase of my life, a phase could be a month, a phase could be 2 years, but it's like this phase of my life, who am I? And sometimes just because you decide to change, it does not mean the people around you are committed to that change or aware of that change. They are committed to who you've always shown them who you were. So you deciding to become something different, they haven't bought into this new version of you. And that can cause some unpeacefulness at times. So back to clear on who am I in this phase of my life, what actions and thoughts align me to that. That helps to create peace. Like the past version of me, you could talk about him like a person. That old version of me would have said yes to you. But who I am today, I have to say no and move forward. Another part when it comes to peace is making sure, and I started alluding to this earlier, that your words are aligned with your actions. One of the biggest things I notice 95% of the times when I ask people, what do you want? When they come into coaching, they say, well, I want less of, and they start communicating in negations. The thing about communicating and negations is that it doesn't actually clarify what you want. So if I'm like, oh, no, thank you, I'm not hungry, you have no clue that I'm dying of thirst. And you can't even be of service to me in that moment because I haven't made it clear what I want. So saying what you actually want, I don't want this, I want less of this, it's really different. Say, I don't want to be stressed. Okay, if you're not stressed, what are you? It's always a pause. Like, wait, what am I if I'm not stressed? I'm at peace. I'm in flow. You have to tell yourself what the other side is because a brain's lazy. It wants to do what's easy. If you keep saying less stress, the brain just hears stress. But if you flip that over to communicate what you actually want, which is peace, then everything starts working with you to create more peace in your life. I'll bring in the other ladies on this topic as well.
Because Miss Siobhan, you didn't have to read me like that. I'm just going to throw it out there. Because I'm just over here like, oh my, okay. Those phases, right? Like you just said, like because 20-year-old me would have said, absolutely, let's go, and 30-plus-year-old me is saying, nah, I'm good on this. We also have to have that expectation for ourselves to be able to maintain that, right? So a person comes to you like, girl, I don't remember remember when we was in 10th grade and we blah, blah, yeah, that was cute. But at this phase of my life, I'm good on that. And this is why, or however that you need to have that conversation with somebody. And I love what Dr. Kimberly said about not always, and Ms. Siobhan, always working in that negative, the negation, the what I don't want. Okay, I'm not taking no more of this. Okay, but what is it? Let's speak in abundance. Let's speak in what the things that we want to get to the next phase of that creates that, okay, I want to be more impactful. I want to be more peaceful. I want to have more self-love. I want to feel more vulnerable in situations that are healthy. I like all of those things. And like Ms. Siobhan was saying, like being able to have that mindset is going to impact how your actions are in that. But you don't have to read me like that, Ms. Siobhan. I just have to throw that out.
I think too, it's important for us to be intentional. I think the question too was asking like when we're in these caretaking roles, right? Be very clear about what that looks like for you and what's a non-negotiable as far as you taking that on and stating that in a way that fits for you and who you're serving, right? I think sometimes as women, we can take on like, oh, I'm gonna do this. And I'm like, I didn't ask you to do that. You know, you're over here stretching you when that was not something of an ask. So I think being very intentional about our roles too are important.
Dr. Kimberly, that is such a great point. So many times we're assuming people's needs. I had this one client. This is like a groundbreaker. I use this example all the time. It was her niece was pregnant and she's like, oh, I'm going to throw her a baby shower. I'm like, well, what's leading you to throw a baby shower? Because I want somebody to throw me a baby shower. I'm like, did you ask her what she wants? She was like, no. I said, you're assuming, and we know the first three letters of assume. That's what we tend to make of ourselves when we assume. You're assuming that she wants a baby shower. Let's just go ask her what she wants. She came back. She was like, Siobhan, you know what she asked for? I'm like, what she asked for? Pampers. You might throw a whole baby shower and her need was Pampers. So even looking at how we trap ourselves with assuming how someone wants to be taken care of. My magic question that I ask my clients, I ask my kids, how may I support you in what you're going through right now? Half of the times people ask for, I just need somebody to listen. Or it would be nothing that I come up with in my mind because I'm like calling everything, like we're going to solve everything yesterday. When realistically, they just wanted me to listen. I could listen for that 30 minutes or whatever it is and move on with my life versus having all these things I'm taking care of because I took on the responsibility without even asking.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you ladies are saying. I think we're kind of catapulted, into these caregiver roles. Like, you know, even as kids, we're given, you know, the babies, the kitchenettes, like we're kind of already groomed at such a young age to aspire to be mothers or caregivers. And I think that creates this thought process that relationships are so transactional. Like the only way I can be useful is what I can do for you. And it makes relationships so transactional. And that's the thing that I try to, you know, allow my untether for my clients. Like you can just show up and just not say anything or not offer anything. And that can be enough for where you are with the relationship you're in. You don't always have to do something to show people that you're worth, like you're worthy to be around. This is, and it kind of aids in that abandonment and rejection. I have to prove to you that I'm worthy for you to keep around and not get rid of me. So really just untethering the idea that all your relationships have to be transactional, because they don't. You don't have to take care of everyone. We can all meet our basic needs. And sometimes all you have to do is just be present.
Ooh, Miss Siobhan, I really
Absolutely.
we're gonna have to talk after this, Miss Siobhan, because I don't the fact that you I'm sorry, because you've been reading me today. The part about assuming what people want because of what you didn't have really struck me, because the fact that your client said, I did because I wanted a baby shower, so I'm going to assume that this young lady also wants a baby shower because I know what I want when I was pregnant. We're also assuming that people are lacking in the ways that we were, and also trying to fix what we didn't have through other people. And that's definitely not a good combination there, because then you're always going to be trying to fill in the gaps that you don't have to fill in, and then overextending yourself. And then again, back to self-care, then we're empty cup, dry, nothing in it. We're just working on fumes. And that's not helpful to any of the people that we want to be able to support. So that part about filling in gaps for things that we didn't have in other people, and what Ms. Diablo said about every relationship being transactional, super important points. That because I wanted a baby shower, that just struck me. Ooh, the projection. Yes, Miss Carriana, come on. Because my goodness, that was. Ooh.
Thank you, ladies. Okay, and so my next question is going to be for Miss Ford, because I am not going to butcher your first name again. How can Black women incorporate more rest into their lives as a part of their resistance and healing journey?
Okay, so when I think about rest, I think first, like, what space am I operating out of? Do I always feel like I have to be doing something? Do I always feel like I have to be productive? Which a lot of us, I feel like we do. So, one, I think that was Dr. Kimberly that said it earlier about just being intentional. You have to be intentional about taking care of yourself. Like I said earlier, self-care is not, it can be considered a luxury, but really it's survival. Like you have to, it's not sustainable to not take care of yourself. You have to make sure that you're being intentional. So with my clients, we have to come up with a self-care routine like the first couple of weeks of working together. And I mean a minimum of, you need to be doing something daily. I know we think, what? That sounds expensive. And I think we, again, associate price at times with self-care. And no, I don't care if it's journal writing. I don't care if it's, I'm going to take 30 minutes and sit in the car before I walk into my house and become mama, homework teacher, wife, whatever. I'm going to take that 30 minutes in the car for myself, and then you'll start doing things weekly. Like I'm gonna go to a workout class once a week or a cycling class, and then you'll do something bi-weekly and then monthly and then quarterly. So you'll have different categories where you will do things a minimum of daily all the way to yearly, and you'll do your big things, like maybe redo your wardrobe for the year, go on a big trip. So as long as you're intentional and you have something that you can do, that you're pouring into yourself, you're able to replenish. And I guess that's more so, like, if you're always like a bank, withdraw, how you gonna be empty, you're gonna be in the negatives, and it's not gonna work. So you have to be replenishing yourself daily, doing those daily deposits. So I would love to hear what the other ladies have to say about self-care, but that's usually the frame that I work out of.
Okay, thank you.
I'm all about hacks. Oh, sorry, Dr. Emily. All right, I'm all about hacks, looking for the small, simple ways to apply it. That's what coaching is about. We need to apply and see what changes come about. So, self-care menu. Think about it in clothing size. You got extra small all the way up to double X plus. And it's like, what are my extra small self-care items? What are my 3X size self-care items? Sometimes we lean towards the larger self-care items and we're like, oh no, I can't because of money. I can't because of time. So if it's like if money and or time is at a deficit, staying in the extra small, medium side of your menu. And I have my clients create a menu. like at least 3 for each size, so that you have a go-to. Just pick it from it, and it makes it easier versus sometimes decide in the moment, what will I do for myself right now? And we're like, oh, let me go to the laundry right quick, as opposed to, you know what, let me go to my menu. All right, I know I don't even have an hour, so let me go on this side. Or I have an hour, let me come on this side. Creating that menu ahead of time and just picking from it can make the process of implementing self-care much easier on a daily basis.
I think too. I think. Oh, go ahead, Sheila.
No, I was just gonna say she makes some really good points. I like that.
Yeah, I like it too. I was going to say that as well. I think another piece regarding what we're talking about when it comes to rest is like, how do we define that, right? I think oftentimes we think of rest is like, oh, that means this is going to take away time for me to do something. And I think oftentimes I have to remind myself, because I have to remind myself first before I'm, talking to my clients about this. But rest looks in different ways. It may just me being able just to have 30 minutes that I'm just in a child's pose, or I am sitting in my car, I'm going for a walk, I am laying down and listening to, soothing music. It doesn't always have to equate sleep, and it doesn't always have to equate you feeling like this is taking away from something. I think we have to redefine what it means for us to recover and to nourish our mind, our bodies, and our spirits as women, and really carve out time to honor it in ways that are valuable for us. I think we tend to dismiss that in ways that I think our bodies are really saying, you need to slow down, sis. Like, really, and that means that looks and is more meaningful for us in different ways of things that we're holding in our lives. But it just takes time for you to be able to recover, however that looks.
Awesome.
When I used to work with children, like, I worked at a hospital for like a little bit. And so they would give the kids this long list of like coping skills, 100 coping skills. Like take a shower, take a walk. And so the kids would be like, but I can't take a shower at school. I'm like, you're smart. So I like the part about like, you can't. So what if you're feeling angry? You're feeling like I need to really take a step back or whatever that looks like. I think having multiple, like when Siobhan was saying, those 3 or 4 different things in each category is so important so that we can't sabotage ourselves. Like, oh, I can't do this. So, okay, I'm about to just go, let me just go make dinner real quick. Okay, I don't have time to take a long drawn out bath right now. I'm just going to go to do this. You can have more than one thing. And so giving ourselves the ability to not make, we do it, make an excuse to not do it. Like, oh, okay, my self-care was supposed to be, I was going to go to the spa and get a massage. Okay, one of my kids is sick, or, my spouse is whatever, or now something came up. Okay, I'm just not going to do that. Never mind. And then we just don't go back to it. It's like we just push it to the back burner. But like Dr. Kimberly said, being intentional about it. Like it's important enough. We're important enough. Our well-being is important enough for us to make time for it. And it can look like whatever it needs to look like. There's not a one size fits all for peace and self-care and being able to take care of yourself.
Awesome. That's beautiful. Thank you, ladies. We got 8 minutes left in this session. So I just wanted to open up questions. I am monitoring the chat. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them in. I don't know if, the panelists wanted to elaborate on anything else that we might have not been able to touch on today, or something that you kind of feel more passionate about that you wanted to express.
I mean, our session is called Ladies Night, so I'm just curious what ladies are doing on their nights, really right now, and really what are you doing to say, sis, let's get together if that's what you're doing in COVID, or sis, let's get on this Zoom call and do whatever. I think we're going back to being, once again, I'm gonna say it, intentional about us separating time for us to put things on our calendar. Like we were very intentional about showing up for our jobs, for our spouses, for our family, for everything else that we're engaging in. How can we show up and celebrate and support us? That's why I was so excited about being able to be on this panel with these queens today, about us being able to talk about this, because I think it's a topic that we talk about, but is it a topic in which we're doing things as far as putting some things in action, in motion? I had that thought. I just wanted to throw it out there.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing.
So, Dr. Kimmel, you're calling us out. Is that what you're saying?
No, I am not. I'm saying
Because I don't know.
let's call for it and do some things if we aren't creating healthy spaces.
No, you're right.
I just think we're doing it.
Accountable. Let's hold each other accountable, okay? Because I'm like, ooh, am I? Let me think about that.
It's a question that came through. I wanted to read off. It says, "How do we deal with being more forgiving to others that are not in a healthy space as you?" Great question.
I'll take a stab at it. When I think about that, it's okay. I believe in grace. I know y'all hear that. Give each other grace, give yourself grace. So I definitely believe like you can be empathetic, but without like people running over you and stepping all over you. So just because you can be forgiven doesn't mean that you have to still allow people that access to you. And also being able to, again, like we've been saying, the healthy boundaries, like it doesn't exempt the people that you're in relationship with to not follow your boundaries. Like you forgive them, but the boundary still stands. Remember, because the boundary is for you. It's a yes to you. You're not necessarily saying I'm saying no to you. I'm saying yes to me. So like really making sure that you hold them accountable and not enable them to continue to run over your boundaries. Like you got to stand up for yourself, but you can still be in relationship with people who are not far along in their healing journey as you are. Like we're all growing. So none of us are perfect.
And I want to get this second question in, just last question. Any input or advice in regards to close relationships with people, friendship, lovers, family, who are not as far along in their process as you? I think that kind of piggyback off of the same question. How to be patient and understanding, but still respect your boundaries.
Both can be true. I think that we don't have to live in a world of absolute. Like we have to either let folks do what they're gonna do or have time for ourselves, and not respect our boundaries. Like both can be true. We can be patient and understanding and give people time and grace and space and help people in their journey in a way that makes sense for them and for you, but also protect your peace at the same time. Both can be true. It's not one or the other. And it deserves to have more than one dimension to it. So I think, understanding where people are is all well and good, but also like Ms. Diablo said, I could still be over here like, no, I'm good on that. Like I can still say, yes, I love you. I'm so glad that you're making progress. I can also still say, you still hurt me, and that's not okay for me, and I'm still cool on you in this way. Or we can talk, but we can't talk about this. Or we have you in this lane of my friends or family or whoever, but not in this other lane. Like you can also categorize people and be like, okay, I'm not going to talk to you about these certain things, but that's more about protecting your own piece as well. So I think not living in that absolution of it has to be one or the other. It can be all of those things.
Good stuff. Okay, we got 3 minutes. Let me see. Okay. One last question. I hope we can answer this in 3 minutes. Okay. How do we continue to be creative when we only have small pockets of time because of work, school, children, a spouse, etc.? I've had a hard time tapping into my creative side. I feel I don't have time.
This question comes up a lot. Something has to come short, right? It will. And I'm not saying that to be ugly, but I'm saying it like you have to prioritize what's important to you. And you have to set, even if it is a small window of time for you to tap into that piece for you. Because if you're a person that works in a creative space, creative side of you actually doing, that's going to make your relationships, your pockets of you connecting with your family, your spouse with you, your children, your work more fruitful. And I think we have to think about, if I take this time to do this for me and pour into me, how is this going to make what I'm doing next even more, engaging, more invigorating, more meaningful for me? We have to change how we look at our pockets of time when we take away for us pouring into us. That's what I would say.
I love it.
That's great. I want to add on to that one too. Sometimes it's time is what it is. It has always been what it is. I think a part of it as kids, it seems like we never ran out of time. And I think it had more to do with energy than it was time. Sometimes we're engaged in activities that are draining to us, and we need so much more time to recuperate from that draining activity. So maybe it's more about how do I get myself engaged in things that energize me so that I have the stamina to continue to do the extracurricular things that I want to do in my life.
Awesome. Okay, we are at 4:49 p.m. A minute shy. Thank you, ladies, so much. You guys were awesome. I appreciate your knowledge, your expertise. I love it. I hope to do this again. Thank you so much for participating. We greatly appreciate it.